we're back for the grand finale of this nearly 2-year Macross marathon, and what better way to end it than by remaking the video that disgusted me enough to go through with this retrospective to begin with. That video really was a tragedy. The jokes, the script, the audio quality, all garbage. I awkwardly bunched a bunch of entries together. I forgot about Macross 2. I didn't wait for Zettai Live to drop even though it was only a couple months away. And I didn't even pronounce Macross right. What was I doing? So yeah, that's easily my greatest shame as a content creator. So on top of this being a rectification for that video, you can also consider this the condensed Do You Remember Love-esque recap of the Macross retrospective. Cause I'm gonna be revisiting each entry, but keeping it as short and concise as possible for the sake of avoiding redundancy. And before we jump into this, I want to make some things clear. Firstly, this is purely opinionated. While I personally don't think objectivity is even really a thing when discussing art, it's important I clarify this before people jump down my throat over some of the weird pics in here. This isn't about what looks or sounds the nicest, it's merely a matter of how much did I personally enjoy it. And I also want to say, just because an entry is low doesn't mean I actually think it's bad. I find Macross to be a pretty consistently quality franchise, with even its worst output still being solid anime viewing experiences. I could shit on Macross Delta all day, but I'd still take it over something like Gundam Wing or Grandizer U. Those shows are melatonin incarnate. So yeah, now that that's clarified, let's get her ranked. Why have either one when you could have both? Macross 7 Plus isn't even a real thing. These are just home release bonus features. They're not outright bad or anything, just kinda pointless. I had no reason to make a video on them, and you have no reason to watch them unless you're a completionist. So for as much as I love Macross 7, I cannot in good faith put these above anything else. Ozma meets Firebomber? No, he fucking didn't. This is another one that lacks any substance, except instead of being 3-minute shorts, this is just 2 hours of the Frontier characters watching the absolute worst recap of Macross 7 ever conceived. I was tempted to put this one at the bottom, but it is hardcore carried by that ending scene where Cheryl and Ronka sing Firebomber songs. And Virgin Story, that's also a banger, so just listen to those two on YouTube and ignore everything else, it's not worth it. Hibiki got a bit too emotional, felt cringe. I feel like I've dick-rode Kawamori a little bit much during this retrospective, so let me clarify something. While Kawamori is indeed the original series creator, responsible for many of its ideas, Macross isn't a one-man project. There have been plenty of others contributing to these series with their own ideas and skill sets. I do not think it's impossible to make a good Macross series without Kawamori's involvement, much like how it isn't impossible to make a good Gundam without Tomino, or a good Mazinger without Go Nagai. Macross 2, however, is not how you do it. I'll admit, this OVA does have its merits, and as a standalone anime experience, it's a pretty decent watch. The music is some of the series' best, the visuals, while fluctuating in quality, generally looked pretty nice. I liked a lot of the character and mechanical designs, and the plot brought some interesting ideas to the table. I found Ishtar to be an endearing character, and I liked exploring the idea of an alien needing to learn culture before bringing it back to her people. And Hibiki could have been an interesting protagonist, focusing on getting the big scoop and exposing the military censorship, as opposed to just being a fighter pilot. But the key word there is could've. They didn't explore these concepts very deeply, instead opting to copy the plot beats of the original, but with much more shallow characters. It's just lacking in any originality, and in a franchise that's constantly pushing forth new ideas, well, it's no wonder it's remained the black sheep of the series. So yeah, not outright terrible, just fails to evolve the formula and comes off as bland, which in my eyes is the worst thing a Macross series can be. Kawamori, get the fuck off of this slop. This is another one like 7+, where it's not low because it's bad, it just doesn't have enough substance for me to put it much higher. This was just a glorified 13-minute music video that reinforced what the movie's ending already hinted at. Some very pretty animation here. I liked revisiting these characters again. The song was great, but yeah, there's not much to it. Macross Delta is the sonic forces of this franchise. But gee, Starlight, didn't you say Macross Delta was even more disjointed than 2? Why the hell would you put it above it? Hey, just because Macross 2 is more concise doesn't mean it's better. Well, yes, I got very fed up with Delta's second half. I'm not gonna pretend like the series doesn't have its moments. The first half of the show in general was actually pretty damn good. And there are some select scenes in its latter half that spoke to me. Like Freya's birthday, that alone made me feel more than the entirety of 2. In fact, Freya alone warrants putting it above the entirety of 2. But overall, yes, Delta did underwhelm me. And the sad part is, I could see a timeline where it's one of my favorites. That's just not the timeline we live in. All of my favorite characters like Billy and the Rex Gang and Bobby. This is just 3 Macross 7 filler episodes. They're pretty good episodes, mind you, but they're still just filler episodes. They honestly should have just been thrown into the main series. I got no issues with them, but if we're considering these a standalone entry, yeah, I can't bring myself to put them much higher. Imagine dying in the war only to have sad Hikaru pasted over you. I can't tell you why, but something about Flashback 2012 is weirdly cozy to me. I suppose it just does a good job at bringing me flashbacks to when I first experienced Macross via SDF and Do You Remember Love? This isn't like FB7 where it's trying to awkwardly condense the entire show. It's just a 30-minute walk down memory lane via these Minmay AMVs. This abstract style of editing is just really charming to me, and the Minmay songs are a vibe. Plus, the new ending scene of adult Minmay reuniting with the trio as they take off in the Mega Road, that was the perfect conclusion to the original saga, and it would have been a pretty satisfying conclusion to Macross as a whole if they didn't go through with any of the sequels. Nothing crazy here, it just passes the vibe check. Ooh, I really love Hayate. Delta was so bloated that trimming it down to 2 hours weirdly helped it. Streamlining the focus onto Freya and Valkyrie was a good call, and it fixes and removes a lot of the smaller gripes I had with the show. And the new content, well, not really substantial, added a little bit of flair to the final battle. Nothing amazing, but I think this is the best way they could have salvaged Delta's original plot without doing a complete rewrite. /C5R /C1T /C5A /C1 and C5. This is just a theatrical Macross 7 episode shown before Plus movie, and it's a damn good one. It notably has much better visuals than the show. We get to see Basara in a brand new environment with a new genius sibling and all, and it introduced my goat, Natter Gabagula. There's not much to say, just go watch it and vibe to heart and soul. Episode 3 starts with Isamu sleeping in the symbiote. Shitting on Macross Plus has kind of become a running joke on this channel, and while I genuinely do think it's a little overrated, it's still Macross Plus. Of course I love it. I wouldn't buy this stupidly overpriced Blu-ray collector set for just any series. Where this movie most obviously shines is in its presentation. Yoko Kanno nails the soundtrack as usual, and it contains some of the best animation of its era. The story's also much more grounded, focusing on an adult cast and their very real issues. Their prior falling out, the trauma that came with it, and how they find themselves unable to cope with it in a healthy manner. Sharon Apple's a unique spin on the idol trope, being a malevolent entity preying on Myung's desires and twisting them into something dangerous. It also places a greater emphasis on the military and piloting aspects. So it's an ideal series for those who hate how Macross began leaning into its idol side later on. But me personally, the idol aspects are my favorite part of Macross. I don't know what to tell you. You see, my issue with Plus comes down to 2 things. Firstly, I couldn't really relate to any of the issues being presented because, well, I've never had a bad falling out with my friends. I might though if Blazer keeps making me watch these shitty Spider-Man cartoons. And secondly, it's just not my vibe. I like my absurd idol shit. In fact, I've always kinda leaned towards over-the-top mecha anime that don't take themselves very seriously. G Gundam, Combattler V, Die Buster, inject that shit into my veins. So yeah, Macross Plus is cool, I have respect for it, but there's simply other Macross series I like more. The movie does have this scene of Isamu essentially barking to a woman. I honestly don't have a strong preference for either version of this series. I think the OVA has a stronger first half, while this has a better final act. And since the Sharon Apple stuff is the main appeal of Plus to me, I'd say I like this version 5% more, because there's slightly more of it. It doesn't matter though, just watch whichever one you feel like, or just watch both. They're both good. This kind of reminds me of, what was it? Oh yeah, Inspector Gadget! It makes me so sad to not have this amongst the top dogs, cause I'm Macross 7's strongest soldier, but look man, the Mylene scenes really did it for me. Not only is a teenage girl getting drugged and nearly raped absolutely not something I needed to see in Macross out of all places, but that's all they really did for her. As a Basara send-off, this OVA's a 10 out of 10, but to me, Macross 7 has always been more than just Basara. Gamlin and Mylene were big parts of why I loved it, so to see them get tossed aside and disrespected, it kinda soured the whole thing for me. And I know the recent Disney Plus release removed the scenes, but I'm not a revisionist. That shit happened, guys. We gotta bear the burden and live with it. But yeah, if you can just close your eyes and pretend that didn't happen, the stuff focusing on Basra and the whales is fantastic. I like seeing how much he mellowed out after the events of the TV show. Having achieved his goal has given him that peace of mind that he can do it again. So as a result, he's a lot less irritable and aggressive than he once was. Angel Voice is one of the best Macross songs for this reason. It's not some big rock song, it's just a calm ballad reflecting on everything he's gone through. Alongside that, the animation was great. It was the last Macross before the jump to digital. The new characters were enjoyable, and it laid the foundation for Macross Zero by having Basara appreciate nature and wildlife. They're all watching Harold and the Purple Crayon. Well, speak of the devil, it's underrated classic Macross Zero. This being so high is really weird considering it goes against what I said in my Plus segment. Like, this has little to no idol aspects. This is a purely grounded military drama, but I don't know, man, that plot had hands. Like I said, it built upon Dynamite's foundation, focusing on the beauty of nature and the tragedies befalling indigenous cultures throughout history. And I think these themes resonated more with me, because a little known fact, I'm a little bit of a nature lover, a little bit of a stargazer tree hugger, so I could tune into this OVA and be like, damn, nature really is beautiful. I also really liked exploring the Mayans and their culture. Mao and Sarah's conflict on whether or not they should quote-unquote modernize was interesting. And good god, the CGI dogfights. I can't believe this shit came out in 2002. It looks better than half the stuff coming out today. The ending was also pretty great. Shin really was a Birdman. Underrated classic. Go watch it. He rolls up to her, wraps a scarf around her that was knitted by Minmay, with their initials engraved next to a heart. SDF is a show that, well held together with nothing but some duct tape and a dream, still managed to capture the hearts of millions, birthing a legacy franchise and reshaping the anime industry as a whole. It helped popularize transforming mechs, it had deeper romantic elements, And Minmay is the OG fictional idol. This show's considered a classic for a reason. The characters in their world felt very authentic, and I liked how they wouldn't pull punches with showing how scary war was. We would really see these characters at their lowest. I feel like a lot of modern anime are kind of afraid to have their characters come off as unlikable or annoying, so they're always like unrealistically nice and calm, but SDF doesn't do that. Everyone's kind of a prick, but they're not completely unlikable. They grow and change throughout the series and pull through when it matters most. Except for Lin Kaifun, but he's intentionally a prick, I know! So yeah, the tight writing and unique ideas allowed Macross to catch on despite its flaws, and it'll always hold a special place in my heart as my introduction to Macross. I still can't put it much higher though because of that 2 years later arc. They really backpedaled on Hikaru's character development. Imagine having sex, your girlfriend is unable to climax, and Basara is just like, try again, try again. Frontier is probably the most consistent entry. I can't really think of any major flaws outside of the TV ending. I still don't know why they didn't conclude the love triangle. Are they stupid? But aside from that, Frontier has pretty much everything you could want out of a show. A perfectly paced story with well-developed characters, a great soundtrack yet again by Yoko Kanno, and some of the best TV animation to be had. It's just a series that rounded up the best parts of prior entries, creating the perfect modernization of the classic Macross formula. Frontier is so perfect that it's low-key kinda boring to talk about. I am a YouTuber, I'm supposed to be bitching, so, I don't like Luca. I don't know why, something about him, he just pisses me off. And then Cheryl starts singing the opening, and then Ranka starts singing Do You Remember Love, and she hits the Kara pose. Kawamori is fucking jingling keys in front of my face. These are just two halves of a whole, so I'm gonna talk about them under the same entry. But yeah, movie 2 is slightly better. Remember how I said Frontier was pretty much perfect outside of the ending? Well, these movies decided to rebuild Frontier's story and give it a way better ending, so yeah, that's resolved. They also fixed things that I didn't know I had an issue with until they started fixing them. Like, yeah, why didn't they ever do anything with those voices in Grace's head? Macross in general is great at rebuilding stories from the ground up to fit a movie format, and these are no exception. While I still think both versions are 100% worth watching, gun to my head, I'd say I like the movies a little bit more. The ending's just way more impactful, I like the new songs, and the animation's slightly better. Giving us the generational line, I'm not captain anymore, I'm a genius! Now how the fuck did this happen? Well, like I said before, I could see a timeline in which Delta was one of my favorites, and this movie finally brought that timeline to fruition. Not only did they hardcore step up the visual presentation, but this movie actually has heart. It feels focused. Like I said, Freya is easily the best part of Delta, so putting the conflict of her lifespan into the forefront was the perfect decision. This movie tackles the idea of life and death much more thoroughly. We see Freya learn what it means to be absolutely alive. It tells the viewer that it isn't about how much time you have, it's what you do with that time that matters. It's a powerful message that could resonate with just about anyone because, well, we're all gonna die someday. This movie wasn't all doom and gloom though, it still gave me some awesome stupid dumb bullshit to enjoy, like Yami-Q Ray or Old Man Maximilian Genius still being a badass. I also like the lore that tied into series past, like Yami-Q Ray using Sharon Apple's technology, or the return of the Mega Road 1 after decades. It's a movie that had me smiling like an idiot one moment and crying like a baby the next. There's never a dull moment. So congrats Macross Delta, despite all the bullshit, one of your entries somehow reached my top 3. Do you guys think that Captain Global invested in a God hand nipper? This was a very difficult decision to make, because quite frankly, my top Macross changes like every week. It flip-flops between this and the one you know is coming like no tomorrow. And despite it not reaching the top, I still adore this movie. It has some of the most gorgeous animation I've ever seen, and the story does an excellent job restructuring the one from SDF. This is the movie that technically got me into Macross. Not that I watched it first, but one day I was listening to some random retro Japanese music on YouTube, and Do You Remember Love began playing. Something about the song just really enamored me. You could say I had my own Yak Day culture moment. Upon looking more into it, I stumbled upon the final battle scene on YouTube, and despite not knowing the context, something about it just captured my heart. I have not and probably never will see anything else like it. This whole scene, this whole movie is just a work of art. And while yes, the sequel have done crazier things by now trying to one-up it, this is always gonna be the foundation. Just every frame of this movie just has so much heart behind it. It's one of those things I can't put into words. You just need to see it for yourself to believe. It is one of the few movies that I would genuinely consider to be a masterpiece. Now let's piss some people off. Macross 7 is the most Macrossiest Macross to ever Macross. That's right, out of all the big scope, beautifully crafted, high budget stuff, the random TV show about a dude singing the same song 60 times to aliens, that's the one that got me. Now look, I get it, Macross 7 does have its problems. It is most definitely an acquired taste. The animation's just whatever, a lot of the episodes don't move the main plot forward, and Basara can be a frustrating character to try and understand. But at the end of the day, this is my ranking, and all that matters is how much it resonated with me personally. There's two major reasons I like Macross 7 so much. First of all, it's just a stupidly fun show, and the writing, I consider it to be pretty damn solid. I rambled for like 2.5 hours about it. I watched this show during a pretty grim period of my life, so its more lighthearted and over-the-top nature struck a chord with me. Whenever I had a rough day, I would sit down, make some mediocre frozen pizza, and cast Macross 7 to my TV when it was still on YouTube, before the great Mobeat purge. I'll never forget you, sweet prince. This show is just kinda a right place, right time kinda thing, and it'll always have a place in my heart for that alone. And the other main reason is its themes. If you watched my 10th anniversary project, you'd know that I'm someone who takes my creative endeavors pretty seriously. And I tend to get frustrated when I can't live up to my own standards. And that's something Macross 7 explores deeply. Basara is someone who keeps singing song after song, trapped in this endless cycle, just wanting someone to truly hear it. And not hear it on a surface level, but to feel the emotions he's conveying, for it to really reach their heart. And that's something I strive to do with my own projects, but the road to get there hasn't been easy. So seeing him finally overcome the odds and achieve his goal, it inspires me to get up and try again myself. And I think it's paying off. Like, I don't have the biggest audience or anything, but it's enough for me to feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. And I hope to keep pushing the envelope further once we're done with this marathon. It's just a show that inspired me on a personal level that no other Macross has. It's something I could turn to in the midst of a slump and feel better about things. So yeah, even if Macross 7 isn't the best one, it's the one I love the most. It's the one that has the most sentimental value to me. It shaped my way of thinking and has helped me pull through hard times, and for that, it's always gonna be my top Macross. Also, come on dude, power to the dream, try again, Submarine Street, remember 16, this soundtrack cannot be topped. So that was it. That was the Macross Retrospective. I hope after all this I was able to redeem myself after that prior video. That video to me wasn't just another bad video. It was injustice and disrespect towards one of my favorite franchises of all time. That's why it personally agitates me more than something like the Persona 3 dancing video or the Mars of Destruction one, despite those also being pretty bad videos. It's the only one I've considered deleting numerous times, but I think to grow as a creator, you need to be willing to acknowledge your prior mistakes and learn from them. And it's not like the Macross Retrospective itself was perfect either. While most comments were positive, I did get some much warranted and appreciated criticism, whether it be technical things, misinterpreting or misrepresenting certain plot points, or just making flat out stupid mistakes. I took all of it into consideration. And while I do think I've grown throughout the marathon, part of me is slightly relieved to be done with it. Not only do I want to tackle new topics going forth, but I also want to change how I go about tackling them altogether. I won't go into specifics just yet, but I'm thinking something a bit more condensed, as I feel like my current structure of looking at things episode by episode not only just takes a lot more out of me, but it feels a bit too recap-y. Also, I think I'd kill myself if I had to talk about all 90-something episodes of Mazinger Z one by one. Dear God. So yeah, whatever happens, I hope you guys stick by my side. I have a lot of exciting ideas in store, and at the end of the day, Macross itself isn't truly going away. Not only is there cool external content out there, but they're already working on another show, and you bet I'll be there to cover it. I don't think so. Famous internet reviewer Quentin Reviews. It's been a while. How you doing, man? I fixed the door. You fixed the what now? Where's the Robotech review?
You'll get your Robotech review when you fix this damn door!
Wait, no, that was just a throwaway line. That was a one-off joke. You cannot actually expect me